Hello, everyone, and a very good evening. And I want to thank you all to take your time out on this Saturday to be a part of this event. I'm really glad that each and every one of you, Shakti, Prince, Chandan, and Neelu, you accepted this invite and you became a part of this panel discussion. I'm really thankful that you took time out on this Saturday. And I wanted to invite each and every one of you who is viewing this right now to this amazing panel discussion. So all the sessions we have aligned with the theme of this year, that is secure our world, which is the mission of Cybersecurity Awareness Month this year. And also wanted to touch the point where this has been the 20th anniversary for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we have been wanting to promote this. We wanted to align ourselves with and commit to this mission of securing our world. Now, when we see in this world where technology is like driving force behind every innovation that is there, the software that runs our business, plays a very pivotal role. And we have seen continuous patching and updating becomes very imperative. So I think today I will leave this discussion to our esteemed panelists, where we will discuss about the challenges of innovation and also security. With this, I am delighted to introduce my first panelist, Prince. So Prince is the CEO and founder of Logictrix Infotech Private Limited, and he is an exceptional individual with demonstrated history of working in technology and marketing industry, where he blends technology and marketing and he drives the innovation. He is a strategic thinker and network builder. He propels his company with the focus on research, marketing mastery, and business development. And we want to witness him today speaking about software updates. Welcome to the panel, Prince.
Thank you, Shivani.
And our second panelist, Shakti. Shakti Gadodra is founder and CEO of Cyanine Security. He comes with over 10 plus years of industry experience and almost 4 plus years of experience in the field of cybersecurity. So, about his company, Cyanine is an end-to-end security services and product firm based in Ahmedabad. And some of their customers are not limited to Gujarat Metro, Singapore Government, Orient Cement, and the list goes on. Welcome to the panel, Shakti.
Thank you so much, Shivani, for your introduction.
And next we have Neelu Tripathi. She is working as an independent security consultant and a practitioner for product security. Her area of work includes developing and managing large scale security implementation programs, threat identification, vulnerability assessments, and management. Building security mindset, she aims to build security mindsets through training and automation. She is also an OSCP certified practitioner and has spoken and trained at various security conferences such as Black Hat. She has been speaker at DevSecCon 24. She was a keynote speaker there. She has spoken at OWASP, Agile India, RootCon, besides Delhi, and the list goes on. Welcome to the Neelu. Welcome to the panel, Neelu. And we look forward to hearing your insights on this topic. Welcome.
Hi, Shivani. Thanks for having me.
And last, we have Chandan Pathak. He's the manager technical support at Dhruva India. So, with a gift for technical finesse and a knack for nurturing client relationships, Chandan is the driving force behind the technical excellence. He knows that the intersection of technical brilliance and exceptional customer service is where true success lies. So, join him today speaking about the innovation and security of business software. Welcome to the panel, Chandan.
Thank you, Shivani, for having me today.
All right. So, with this, I want to just get deep dive into our topic today, and I wanted to know what do you think? How can organizations make sure that software updates boost both innovation and enhance cybersecurity against the new threats? What do you feel about it, Neelu?
Okay, so like you said, right, there is in terms of software, right, a lot has changed in the past few years already. And the way we are looking and thinking about the software and the way changes are happening in software itself is changing. uh, because of that, we've actually moved from our traditional ways of working to agile, to services architecture and things like that. And a lot of dynamics in the development teams is also changing. I think that is the first thing to keep in mind. So from the perspective of the way teams are forming, when we are doing development, you will see that there are many teams which are working on the core business logic, which is the feature teams or services teams as we call it. One of the things that we can do is, from a security standpoint, to first of all is have a preventive mindset. So look for teams like platform teams, which are building the foundation of the entire development that happens. As of when you talk about modernization, you will have teams like platform teams where a lot of security or security epics, as we call it, can be offloaded. For example, things like authentication, authorization, secure configurations, which can then be templatized and used by various other teams themselves. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is that today, with the new forms of development and the modernization that we are trying to do for the software, there are a lot of new components which are coming in with the technology. So there are very key components that you can actually leverage as a security team. For example, if you will be working definitely with things like API gateways, right, or service mesh and things like that, which come with inbuilt capability which needs to be enabled with respect to enabling things like request thresholds, right? So you can set a limit there as well to avoid things like DOS attacks. You can also enable things like mutual TLS there. You can have service authentication where you can also have a good level of access control in terms of what is the attackers cannot basically directly attack an API because they'll need authentication for some of those areas as well. When you talk about modernization, there is also this aspect of environment, because the entire environment around the development teams is now changing. It's no more essentially on-prem like it was earlier. So we are moving towards the cloud side of things as well. So it's good as engineering and security teams to leverage as much as possible in terms of the out-of-the-box features that you get in terms of security, depending again of course on your business context and technical context. Having things like, for example, out of the box secrets management, right, so that you don't even have to think of things where you scan it should not be there in the code in the first place. You have DDoS protection today provided by all of these cloud providers. You have WAF protection, you have SIEM and everything else which you can actually leverage out of the box, and it is a matter of configuration today. So all of that needs to be leveraged. With respect to updates, because we're also talking in terms of software updates and things like that, because we have so many different components and dependencies that we are working with, it's important to be able to do a business level prioritization of the risk that you may have from the findings that you keep getting from, even if you add your tooling on the pipeline. So that prioritization needs to be very, very clear, and you must eliminate what is not correct or true in your context. And of course also tell the engineering teams that. And lastly, I think from a patching perspective, it's important to have quicker patching cycles today. It is easier said than done, but over a period of time you can manage your metrics on, time to recover, time to discover these issues, and to be able to apply the patch in production itself. So measure that time, try to reduce this over a period of time so that you can patch as quickly as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Chandan has like good experience working with engineering teams and dealing with high priority escalations or tickets. So how do you feel, Chandan? With engineering team and support working continuously, how can you make sure you might have real hand
Mhm.
experience working with them. How can you make sure like they bring in that innovation, and also Neelu said
Mhm.
continuous monitoring or patching activities. How can you make sure that runs in the function?
So, thanks, Shivani. Yeah, I mean, it is a day-to-day activity. We have to engage in these kind of activities with the engineering team. So, as Neelu mentioned, we need to have a mindset, right? And
Right.
we can call it a shift left approach, where security has to be the foundation of our software development. So, when we are developing a software, when we are um, creating a solution for our customers, security has to be the first thing that we should start considering, and that will help us achieve our ultimate goal.
Absolutely. So when we talk about shift left approach, we see organizations still are, thinking
Mm-hmm.
and pushing out security budget to the last, thing on their mind. How do you think, this is impacting the organizations? Because we come up with all these kind of things, like, maybe Prince and
Mm-hmm.
Shakti might have also seen with customers, when they are persuading, security is something
Right.
which is, I will be thinking about
Yeah.
it at the last. That is not very
Right.
important. So how it becomes imperative to have this thing in place, and how we can enable CISOs and CIOs in following
Mm-hmm.
up with this uh, mindset. How do you think we as security providers or as a security consultant become a part of this whole ball game? Anyone can, Shakti, if you would like to highlight that.
Sure. So majority of time, when we discuss, as the business owner or security consultants with the CISOs, most of the time, either they are dealing with 10 different vendors or 10 different solutions, and it's very hard for them to choose what specific vendor or solution they need to be, that needs to be implemented to have the right approach on the security. So for us, on our perspective, it's always very integral part to explain the CISOs, or to, I'd say, the integral part is to understand the exact pain areas of the CISOs, because I'd say depending on the domain, or depending on the business side, all the CISO have majority of time different challenges they face. So majority of time, what we have felt is, the security solutions that we implement might address their actual pain areas. Let's say for someone who is specifically looking for a monitoring solution, so there might be a case that the CISO would end up trusting that a very expensive solution might be able to add values and not the other ones. So in this aspect, it's always addressing the exact pain areas, and understanding the exact security roadmap in order to address them accordingly, is
Yeah.
what I personally
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Neelu, would you want to add something? You are also an independent consulting working with a lot of companies. How do you feel like, this has been like a challenge, or, how do you overcome this kind of a situation?
I think I like to see it in two different lenses, because the top down approach is often different from the bottom up. When you talk about top down, it's see, they have the knowledge, but budgeting always, there is the engineering functions is taking priority in others. I think in those cases it is good to have security as a metric for your engineering leads. Of course, that will need a lot of discussion on what they can start having in terms of what they can show in terms of security as a qualitative attribute for the software, and then they will actually start giving that buy-in for having budget for it early
Mm-hmm.
on. And bottom up approach is to be able to, so many of us in organizations today have autonomous teams where they're doing development, they're taking their own decisions. It's good to make them or educate them to understand what is the, or an estimate what is the effort and time that will be required, because security is not just budget, it's also time, that developer time that will be spent on either identifying threats or addressing that, or addressing the findings that are coming out of your pipeline. So bottom up would be to educate all those leads who are there to understand what is the effort and estimate, both time and effort wise, what will go into a certain product in terms of security, so that they can account for it in much in advance, and then that can go ahead to the engineering leads and others.
Absolutely. I have also, spoken to a lot of people, who are into the software development side. Prince is like one such person that, if I have something, I go to him for the software development. And we have spoken with Prince or with all other founders as well. Security has to be, layered in the software development life cycle. It shouldn't be like bottled up. It should not be something which, it comes out to you as a shock. So I think, Prince, would you want to highlight how we can blend the security strategies with the innovation goals or the development goals once we are into that cycle?
So, right, as I have an experience in building the products and for my clients and all. So, over here, what we do is like we are taking care of those from the architecture, solution architecture. The solution and the cybersecurity is the primary concern from where we are building the architecture itself. That what should be used, how things would be encrypted, what should be the cycle, how it should be rotating and not, so that we don't get that surges afterwards. So, we don't need to put that engineering budget over the innovation what we are doing. So like someone come finds the threat and then say to us that okay, you need to change this out. So again we need to go to that level one and then start developing it, retesting it, and that whole process is all about that. Still, there are few things which needs to be taken care. Like right now, you are taking care for us. Like sometimes we involve you as well. That where we require a special test cases thing. And as it's a cybersecurity thing, it comes in network, firewall, code level, and at the same time at the database. So following the standard is one of the thing where you can blend this out and like lose out that, like tackle out those budget issues and timeline issues. Because some things are the basics of where the leads are knowing it all across after the coming up with the years of development. And whenever needed, we get a time, so we'll go for the web test so that you can keep finding the loopholes in the system and you can start fixing it and those patches.
Absolutely. Like, that's the agile mindset. I believe, all the
Yeah.
engineering and innovation teams are following that mindset. Chandan, would you want to add something to that on agile mindset and how engineering can leverage that?
Uh, that's right. So yeah, agile mindset is like one of the challenges, because when we go ahead with agile mindset, we at times take or consider security in the back foot, and then it bites us back. So it is very important that every organization should have some security champions or some teams which are coordinating with the third party security solution providers and ensuring that proper security measures are continuously in place in the organization, so that they don't get into a situation where they have ransomware attacks and other stuff.
Absolutely. So I think you
And
touched
I'll
a
add
very,
one more thing,
yeah, yeah, sure, sure,
if
Prince.
so, like as we do have the QA as a one stage of our software and the product or development cycle, we can add on one more layer that once we get the like cybersecurity sign off, then only we will release the production one. Else we won't release it. Else it will again go to the development one, which will help us to save the lot of phishing attacks and all lot
Hmm.
of the threats which we got while we are getting on the production environment. And it's very like painful at that time where because your system got down, you don't have the backups or something like that, and you lose the access, and a lot of business side get a good loss over that time. So it's that cost would not be anything when we are comparing to that one. We can use the DevSecOps part altogether in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the important points is like security by design, or security coding practices has to be brought in place in order to uh, get away from these challenges. So that mindset has to be developed within the organizations, but again, there's a very early stage. Obviously it will take time to evolve.
Absolutely. So,
Definitely.
like, yes,
Yeah.
security by design, it can enhance, but like, coming back to our topic, like, updating the software for security purposes, how regular
Mhm.
patching, even if we are developing and we have let's say we have an MVP, a developed MVP, and you find like there are a lot of bugs, and if we are not implementing like proper patching mechanisms, or we are not
Mhm.
implementing regular updates on that, so the
Right.
functioning of the product can also hamper. So over here we have to bring in that innovation where we have to do security enhancements, so taking care of the vulnerability management or the vulnerability
Mhm. Right.
software vulnerabilities.
Right.
So I think Shakti would be the best to answer because he has seen such kind of things, taking care of the product and also taking care of the security of the product. So how do you feel, we can enhance security by vulnerability mitigations and vulnerability management? How can patching address these vulnerabilities? So
Sure. So addressing the vulnerabilities, I think, should be a continuous and innovative approach on based on the change management and release management as well. Because
Mhm.
I think, patching the knowing the vulnerabilities and not able to patch them on time before the release is also would be able to, add a huge hamper on the business and on many aspects as well. So some key features, or I'd say the key pointers about mitigating these should be the risk opportunity balancing act, like, discussing the need for the organizations to balance the risk and versus the opportunity, found on all the findings or vulnerabilities, addressing them on a timely manner. So there might be a lot of approach, but I think approach that is very straight and on time, with innovation, should always be very effective.
absolutely, absolutely, I agree to that point. Like, uh, personally, I also believe, like, in certain areas where DevSecOps also, play a very important part in that, because uh, in they try to fix. They have an approach of, SAST, where, they keep updating or keep checking on the security vulnerabilities as and when they develop, and it's a part of their CI/CD pipeline. And Nilu is
Hmm.
an excellent person to give an insight on that as well. And also, I've also seen, like, sometimes, if we have some feature updates, it may also introduce some, maybe it can also introduce some new functionality that we might not even see or we might not have even thought of. So I think that also is one point that we can also consider while doing such kind of development.
Just to add to that point, actually,
Yeah.
since just from the previous point, actually, even for patching, the mindset that we should have when you are doing agile development is ideally to move towards a more incremental and iterative format of patching as well.
Yes.
So the earlier, of course, the earlier you identify items are more incrementally. So if you're talking about the delta, so start running things on the delta of the code rather than the entire code, including things like SAST or other tooling that you may have, where the developer who's actually trying to patch does not have a ton of things to patch, first of all, because that prioritization, even if you're prioritizing well, it really is going to take a lot of time. There are tools today which will give you reachability analysis, like saying that, okay, this is actually exploitable or not, and things like that. But that's not matured yet to that extent, I think. And from a developer standpoint, it should be much easier to take up a smaller chunk on just on the code that they are actually developing, and then address only those issues. So even when you're running things like SAST or other tooling, have it in a more delta fashion where it is running on just the incremental code, and this is the same thing
Right.
that we used to do with threat modeling also. We'll just take up the new set of features, right, and do a threat modeling rather
Right.
than trying to pick up everything at the same time, and that delays it in the pipeline and it delays it everywhere else.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is where the development and engineering teams suffer the most, because
Right.
they are doing something on their level, and they feel that what they have developed is like something which is full and final and they're okay. And sometimes they even forget, like, there is a security team behind them wanting to fix the issue. And, how could they release, like Prince added, how could they release even, before the security might have tested it, and then everything is like full blown and they come back, we did the same thing, you asked me to add a button there, and, I did it. What's the harm that can be done?
Right.
So, Prince, you might have real hand experiences on that. Let's share some stories about it.
So, like recently, we have this issue. We were working for a Hilton Group in like US. Over there, they got some ransomware threat, and they were using the AWS KMS managed key itself. And to prevent that out, their security team, they have one security team. They come up with things that you cannot use this out because this is something which can be not reliable enough because it's at the AWS site. So we need to be keep our own managed key services. So like there, they have been done this, And when we are going to route with the startups, right? Though I do have seen the multinational organization do have their security teams and that whole cycle of things. But when we go to the startup cycle, they want everything to be quick. They want their releases to be done within a week, within a 2 week. I want this
Yeah.
feature within to be that. Over there, they just like at a moment they won't like, okay, this is a beta phase. Let's remove the security one. We'll take care afterwards if anything goes wrong. And in that also, sometimes it's lead to that they crash down the whole product and everything, and which leads to go back to square one, and they need to fall in all of that. So I've been that like over there, we got that learning that okay, let's keep these things from the start, and we should not moving releasing the product without the QA approval. Similar way, we'll keep these things into the panel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shakti, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. So just to add, most of the time security is just like an add-on and not as a core feature. Like a car have a seat belt as a drive safety measure. Most of the time, people won't simply use it because they feel they are secure. They're good drivers. So I think security is as same. Instead of considering as an add-on, enterprises and organizations should treat it as a core feature. Is what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I believe all businesses run on software or some kind of the other, and they rely heavily on that, and then it becomes like way too important for them to have that patching mechanism in place, even if you are continuously monitoring, or if you have a SOC team in place, or you have all the fancy Windows Defender or Carbon Black. It's very important to even update those. Sometimes we even, if I give you an example of we get iPhone updates also. There's a minor bug up, uh, like
Fixes,
update your patch,
security
you know.
patches.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so we will, okay, it's taking this much of memory, I'll skip it, but we do not understand the importance of a simple just doing a patching. I have seen organization having a patching policy in place. They have that weekly, monthly patching processes that they are following, and also they collect logs if something goes wrong. I think that's a very vital element, so that they can also understand what are the security implications that they are facing, because once you run it and you fetch that log, you will understand what is going wrong, and then you can get to the root of it, or create your root cause analysis documents. So how do you feel, Nilu, about all this? Like, how do you feel, like, should companies have such kind of logging and patching mechanisms in place? Like, if I touch upon the compliance part of it as well.
Yeah, definitely they should have. But I think organization to organization and depending on the scale and size, these can actually get very complex. So when we talk about
Mhm.
patching, it's really not that straightforward. And when, as security teams, first things that we say these days is you sit down with developers and work with them for a few months, understand what their challenges are. Because when you are upgrading something which looks very simple to
Hmm.
us in security, it can break a lot of things. And many
Mhm.
times this code is not written by the developer who's actually patching the code. So understand the
Mhm.
level of unknowns
Yeah.
which are involved, and there are production systems, there are other things, and that is why
Right.
it is not very straightforward. So
Mhm.
it's important to first of all prioritize from a technical standpoint, prioritize really what you want to fix and minimize that as much as possible.
Mhm.
Secondly, automate it to a degree that's possible. These days there are tools also coming wherein they will give you
Mhm.
automated MRs, merge requests,
Yeah.
where you can, but
Right.
that is just to a degree. You still have to do the hard work of figuring out what is really breaking, what's not. Have a set of environments where you can test things out much quicker when you are rolling it out to
Mhm.
production if there are some specific patches. I think this we saw very up close, and all of us, I think, would remember the days of Log4j, right? When you
Yes.
got the patch, but you didn't get the patch. You, in a way that the patch was again exploitable, and then there was a rush. And imagine when thousands of developers are trying to do that for a single
Absolutely.
component versus talking about so many other components which are vulnerable, which you can see. So
Yes.
this has to be done in collaboration. The frequency, of course, has to be decided depending on what is your appetite, how much automation you have in place,
Right.
and what are the
Yeah.
systems in place of tracking all of this. given you have asset inventory, an inventory, a bill of materials in terms of dependencies and everything else.
Correct.
I think Prince wants to add something. He was completely agreeing to Nilu, whatever she was mentioning. Yes, Prince, let's hear from you as well.
Like it's been there when Jesse shared, right? Like you have one developer a year back who was writing a piece of code, and he went with to another organization and moved when another one come up, and you have given him the task, and it's like, okay, I need to patch this out. So sometime it may happen that they just break the everything which is existingly work perfectly fine, and then there's just patch work to be done. And that over that time we need to take care a lot of things, and that thing just to take care of that particular piece we need to have proper documentation and
Mhm.
prioritization. So like as in a developer community we say, if it is working, don't touch it.
Yeah.
So that is something yeah, so that is something we are also being with those phase. Though there are a lot of scripting tool now these days where you write a script for particular test cases, so you won't need to test it manually again and again, and you can save a lot of manual work which need to be done in
Yeah.
the previous terms.
No, absolutely. I understand the pain of developers because,
Yeah.
sometimes if Shakti can resonate with me. We give issues sometimes, update your Apache version or update your Java version. It can be a low or info vulnerability, but, that vulnerability will cause a havoc with I cannot update that version. So I know maybe Shakti can resonate with me on this.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I'm sorry, Prince, you're saying something.
Yeah.
No, yeah, continue.
Yeah. So most of the time, developers are literally, so the communication between the innovation team and development team should also be, should be a key factor while addressing the vulnerabilities or patching those vulnerabilities. And I think the most key factor is should also be the proper awareness within the organization. I think be it, if you are able to keep your technology at the robust security, meeting all the robust security aspects. Most of the time, the things got compromised because of some human errors or a lack of awareness within the organization.
Yeah.
So as we, we can keep discussing all these aspects on and on, but there are some, these are some of the key pointers, that should be addressed in a well manner.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes, Chandan, would you
Shivani,
want to? Yeah.
yeah, I
Yes,
concur with
yes.
Shakti, because this is the real time challenge that we see in the organizations. So cross function communication, right, or knowledge of how a software piece will uh, work or break in different functions is very important. So like as Prince rightly mentioned, documentation is one of the important aspects that
Mhm.
every organization should follow for better software development and patching mechanism to be in place. So, and it has to be um, centralized, right? So it should not be
Yes.
like it is owned by a particular team. So it has to be centralized, and yeah, proper privacy mechanisms has to be in place when we are doing that. So that is
Like
something
in
that
adding to that, I've seen some organization keep maintaining the documentation that if you move this variable, this will affect these many function. Please check before you move this variable anyway. So
right.
which helps a lot of time and lot of hindrance of the developer itself, because it will take a lesser time to compare to debugging the whole code that where it's going wrong.
Mhm.
So
And
documentation played a very vital role for being managed services to delivering the clients at the moment.
Absolutely. So, Neelu, would you want to add something? You also have similar views with Prince.
Yeah, so of course, I think with the modern forms of development, so there is more automated forms of documentation. I think they don't do elaborate documentation because we are working on agile
Mhm.
most of the times. But talking about the point that even Chandan was talking about, with respect to even dependencies and other components from supply chain that we keep using, there are many products where you can have a centralized repository of your dependencies and things which generally you need to update. Now,
Right.
If you have a central place, you can upgrade it more seamlessly, and then that can be used by all the other teams, right, from time to time. So particularly for the more matured clients that I have seen from one time to another, they believe in having that central thing, and that really helps because other teams can give
Yeah.
them that intel that, you need to update this, or there is so and so issue and this is the patch available, and then it centrally gets updated. So that ad hoc nature of things, when there are different teams trying to pull in from public repositories, or even dependency confusion attack. These days there are so many supply chain attacks also, I'll not go into that, but all of those can be avoided, and you centrally get upgraded in a way so that the immediate next set of developers using it are actually using the most updated form
Mhm.
of dependencies and libraries.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think challenges are everywhere, whether you are focusing on innovating, or whether you are focusing on the security part. So challenges are a part and parcel of whatever work we are doing. So to sum up, I wanted to have a final round of thought from each and every one of you. Like the theme of this year, you know, cybersecurity awareness month is also like secure our world, and one of the pillar that talks about, update your software. So wanted to know a final few lines from you. What do you want to, see, and how do you want to align yourself with this pillar? So anyone can start.
Sure. So if I give it a thought, I think the very first key factor should be the early and continuous security integration. I mean, making security a part of the development process from the very beginning is the very first point, and then conducting the code reviews, static and dynamic analysis. I think there are a few well robust solutions available in the market, that literally offers continuous assessments on VAs and PTs. So I think implementing those solutions, implementing the incident response drills, which could be a bridge gap between the CISO team, the development team, and the security team as well.
Mhm.
And the awareness, as I mentioned earlier, the awareness within the organizations should be the important factor, but also within the development team, it should be a very very mandatory practice that should be implemented. I think red teaming assessments and blue teaming assessments on the same case should also be, or would add a difference, to ensure that the security is always in the place.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shakti.
So just add to what Shakti mentioned, and one of the point was very beautiful that he mentioned in the previous comment, that security should not be an add-on; it should be an essential part of any software, right? And having a left shift mindset uh, to ensure that security is embedded in the code itself, and having centralized documentation so that it reduces the resolution time and dependency on the individuals would certainly help this process, Shivani.
Thank you, Chandan.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll conclude in a way that cybersecurity keep like once we are going through, as there are a lot of cyber crime is daily and increasing day by day. So it's very important aspect. We should not neglect that part, that you should not be keeping those things over the priority on the funnel. That you should keep updating your things and do whatever it takes to maintain the security, because these days we are living in a data age. So keeping your software updated means keeping your house safe and yourself at the safe place.
Thank you, Prince. Neil.
Yeah, so I would say more in an immediate sense of patching and controls that you're applying, be more iterative because that's where you're
Yeah.
going with development as well. That will eventually make it continuous, but it will also align with the overall engineering mindset. The
Yeah.
next one that you should look at it in the long term, have more simple but effective baselines which can be picked up by your IT teams, by your
Mm-hmm.
engineering teams, so that they can run with it, and there is no time wasted there. and automate, of course, as much as possible. Lastly, correlate in terms of your control needs across your product set, across your organization, so that you can streamline wherever required, centralize wherever required, and then the other ones can be, more contextual, which you can leave up to the
Yeah.
teams to take care of.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think we can conclude this session with saying, like, when we are putting our approach of shift left into security, we have to make sure, like, we are following, adhering to all the patching and security mechanisms. We are making sure that we have agile mindset into it and have an iterative approach. And like Neelu said, I completely agree to her when she said that it is not very straightforward. It has its pros and cons attached to it. So we need to make sure, like, whenever we are aligning our development efforts, how we can align our security, patching, and software updates efforts to it. So with this, we conclude this panel discussion. And I hope this discussion has not only raised awareness, but also empowered each and every one of us to take, or maybe those who are watching, to take informed actions. So this is all for today's panel discussion. I would have you all to attend other panel discussions as well, where we are dealing with all the cybersecurity awareness month pillars. And see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so very much,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shivani, for being a wonderful host.
And thank you, Shivani, for doing this, spreading the awareness. And security is all about, spreading awareness is
Yes.
what we can do at the very good extent. So you're doing a
And
phenomenal